Sure. Director Brett Eccles,
Here.
Director Arthur Perry,
Here.
Secretary Arlene Schaefer, Vice President Michael Schaefer,
Here.
President Robert Eaton.
Here.
Thank you.
Are there any late communications?
No, Mr. President.
And I don't believe there are any ceremonial matters or presentations.
No, sir.
Public comments. Ms. Gillo.
Thank you. I've received,
Speak, hold the microphone very close to you, if you would, please.
okay,
Thank you.
all right. I received a paper for the Costa Mesa Sanitary District potential questions for 1383 compliance. And it's a list of questions of, are you aware of the OCC Recycling Center? A, the recyclable collected at the recycling center reduces the fees the Costa Mesa Sanitary District charges residents for their trash collection. That should be up in bright lights. This is really important to the citizens. Always, it's money that comes in out of the pocket. So that is something we should really tout. By the way, this isn't just about the 1383, because it's mentioned later about 1883, and who knows how many other.
That was the typographical error. I wrote that.
Okay.
1383.
Yeah. Well, okay. I think people know about OCC Recycling Center, but they need to keep knowing about it. And the fact that we get credit here for it is really important. Now, am I familiar with the California State Regulation AB 1883? Well,
If I wrote the 1883, it should be 1383.
oh, okay.
Same topic.
Okay. Among other things that you say and reinforce later is the organic/food waste from the trash that is sent to the landfills. Does chicken is going to the landfill. How about the bones? Are they counted as organic? Are any bones counted? Is the ham bone, after it's been in the soup, is that still something that should be in the trash? The green waste can? That's a question. I don't know.
Ms. Gillo, if you come to the ad hoc committee meeting that is soon to be scheduled, then we can address those questions, because that'll be on the agenda.
Oh, this paper will be on the agenda? Of this paper of
Well, those are
questions?
some of my questions, so they'll at least be, we'll be talking about 1383 in general for solid waste ad hoc committee.
Then, well, in green waste, do you count brown sticks that have been green?
Mr. President, as you know, under the Brown Act, the public speakers have the right to their time to make comments, and then you can ask the manager or somebody else to make appropriate comments, but under the Brown Act, it's not a time for a back and forth or a cross-examination of the board by anybody speaking, so that would be the appropriate way to handle that. If you wanted to let the speaker get out all their questions and then turn to somebody that you believe is best qualified to answer and ask them if they can provide some brief comment, and And of course, otherwise, there's other venues they can go to get answers after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Burns.
Thank you. What would make it easier for you to put food waste in the green cart? Do we have to wash it off? And then what happens to all that wastewater? And we're low on water. Do we have to wash it? Maybe not. But then the place is going to smell. Landscaping products is mentioned under 5. And the contractor hauls away landscaping projects to the landfill. What counts as a landscaping product?
Scott?
Yeah, that's later, you're going to tell me. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know where the material recycling facility is located? No. I think they might. Orange Coast, everything else is. Best means of educating you, what is proper to put in each container? Well, coming here to ask questions. I think people should be really invited. I shouldn't be the only one, and usually there's another guy anyway, but 2 people, more than that. Notes on top of cans might be interesting for people to get, especially if, in covering the rest of this, if they're already doing a good job, maybe a nice little star or something could be affixed to the can, and the people at least would, I think they had done something right. And you have neighborhood streets maybe could be challenged, or awards, like being noticed in the newspaper of areas of the city which comply. Just even that might stir people on, and others saying, what did we do to not comply? Which is, I think, the biggest question for most people. But thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Steele. Scott, do you want to address any of the items, or should we wait till
I believe I took all her notes down of her concerns, and I think it'd be appropriate if we address those concerns at the solid waste ad hoc meeting.
Okay, and that's to be scheduled?
Yes, we're in the process of doing that.
The consent calendar, do any of the directors have any questions on the consent calendar, on any particular items and want it pulled? Or do I have a motion?
Move for approval. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Public hearings, I don't believe we have a public hearing, so we'll go to the general manager's report. And then the first item is a large item. It's to adopt the biannual budget for fiscal years 21-22 and fiscal year 22-23. Do any of the directors have any questions of staff on the budget?
Mr. President, if I could just correct, the budget has been adopted already. So the budget was adopted last June. What we're presenting to the board is just
Review the file.
a nice document. Back in June, when the board adopted the budget, it came into effect on July 1st. After the board adopts the budget and the finance team gets together and they put together a nice readable document for the public that's posted on our website. And that's what we're sharing with you tonight is that document. I do want to commend our finance team, Caitlin Tran, Lee Tran, and Autumn Alvarez for working tirelessly on getting this document up on our website. We are going to be presenting this document to the Government Finance Office Association for consideration to be awarded the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, which we've never received before. So we will be submitting that, and hopefully keep our fingers crossed we'll win that award. Again, it just demonstrates that we are complying with good accounting standards and also demonstrating transparency for developing our budget. So hopefully we will be recognized for that achievements. But really tonight, it's just to share that document with the board and answer any questions you may have.
And this is the appropriate time to submit it to the county for their records. Art?
I just had a question, Scott. I was starting to print it off, and I saw it was like 123 pages. Is there a chance that you could print it off for me?
Sure.
Because I use, I have color ink and stuff. It's pretty expensive, so I would like to get a copy that I can keep. And then two, at the back of it, you had a brief history of the Costa Mesa Sanitary District, which is pretty good. I guys look at that, it's pretty good. But I want to commend you on that. I thought it was great, except for, one little small area. But sure.
Well, my main question is, or comment, a couple. The budget, I think, is pretty conservative, has pretty conservatively estimated the future organic tonnage and the recycled tonnage, probably appropriately so. When I analyze the costs, hopefully we'll come in under budget, and not have the increases in the organic and recycled tonnage that staff has projected. I believe they're appropriate. The thing that I'm most concerned about is there is no money in the budget for as yet, because we haven't been able to figure it out, for the 1383 expenses that we probably will be occurring. The state had estimated it's 20 to 40% increase in trash fees that the public will have to endure. I believe with our organics program, it'll be something substantially less than that. So there will be future fee increases, and the budget projects that the reserves will continue to dwindle in the solid waste budget. And so my recommendation is, and it'll probably be the staff's recommendation later, is that we do a solid waste fee study. It'll be ending in a few years, but there won't be much money left in there, and there's definitely not much money, if staff's projections are correct, for any CIP fee increases that CRNR has asked for. So if the board decides to do that, we'll eat up almost all the reserves. And then if CRNR is on the line, I'll ask the third question later. So I think staff's done a good job. I think it's prudently conservative, I hope, and it'll, I'm a little more better reserve standing at the end of this 2-year budget. So all we do is receive and file.
Yes.
I have one more question, if it's okay.
Sure.
Okay, Scott, do you think with this 1383, one, that we're going to have a third barrel? Yes or no?
We don't know at this point, but it's possible.
Okay, and then let's see. I think that's my main question, because I've been reading up on it, and I'm reading about organics and food waste, but I don't see anything about a third barrel. Have you read that?
Yes, you can still have a mixed waste car system like we have right now, and it is allowable. What CONR has demonstrated to the state is that materials are going to a high conversion facility. So what is Cal Recycle using? What criteria are they using to determine a high conversion facility? We don't know. And so we have to wait until they make that determination with CONR facilities.
Is that when they say a dirty facility, a dirty MRF? Is CRNR a dirty MRF right now?
Right. What they're saying, their dirty work is probably not going to be a high diversion facility. Is what CRNR is concerned about. But they also have clean work there too.
They have one there too?
Yes.
Did they use it for our product?
No, they don't.
Okay. whose product did they use?
Everyone else's.
But ours?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, we're the last ones that have a mixed waste card system.
Oh, I see.
Nabil and I just had a meeting with Newport Beach officials, and they're planning on rolling out a free card system in January. So we will truly be like one of the last ones.
Okay. And then what about the 4-unit complexes? Because they're going to require green waste and food waste, aren't they?
Yes.
What, do we have a plan in place for that, for the ones that we're dealing with?
Well, they already have a mixed waste and green waste card, so
They
we go to a third card. I think the big issue is going to be space. You know, will they have space for that? And that's one of the questions we're going to be asking in the survey. Yeah, they would have to have the multi-family units. We're going to have, if we go to a 3-card system, one for trash, one for recyclables, and one for.
Well, I know they don't have a green waste, food waste cart right now. Could you go down 19 or go down Placentia and see all the green cans? There's no light green cans for organics. Or we're going to have to provide them with a kit.
If there are customers, they should have the organic cards. If there are customers, they will have an organic card. Unless they're exempt for some reason. Unless they're exempt.
That was my question. I don't know if they're exempt or not. I mean, I don't know because go down Placentia all the way down and this Monday was their
Yes. They might not, maybe they didn't put them out, maybe they're not using it, and that's another issue, so maybe they're not using their organic card. Sometimes, some people don't put their organic cards out.
I know. But are we going to be required to have them have an organic card?
Yes,
Okay, so we'd have to, are we researching that at all?
yes.
So the exemptions are gonna be basically blackball.
That's gonna be a board decision. What we heard from Cal Recycle, they're not allowing any exemptions, so the issue might come up, those that we exempted, we might have to give them a card, but again, that could be up to your decision as well.
And some local, homeowners don't use the green card either, do they? Because we haven't given it to everyone. Are we gonna have to?
Yes, I mean, what we could do is, if they don't produce a lot of green waste, and we give them an option, is we give them a 35-gallon organic card for food scraps, because they have to throw the food scraps in there.
Okay.
They can't throw it in the landfill.
Because that's supposed to roll out on January 1st. Is that correct?
The education part is, yes.
It's just the education
Yes,
part?
the education part. So the next 2 years of education, and then the enforcement begins 2 years from now.
Okay, sounds good.
And part of CRNR's MRF is, or the logic they use is there's too much contamination in them. And that's a question that I have for CRNR. If you'd ask them that, I know that green waste end up in mixed carts, and I know that some residents, when we rolled out the green carts, just left them out on the street and they end up getting picked up. I've seen alleys where trucks came in and they stole the green carts. I've walked alleys where we have fourplexes and they don't use the green card except for mixed waste. We got a lot of opportunities ahead of us.
Mr. President, I don't want to get too far past what we're talking about with the budget.
Yes.
I agree with the general manager. I think the financial staff did an outstanding job. I mean, we're all acutely aware of the challenges and the things that have happened over the last couple of years. And all of those pandemic-related issues that have forced us into some situations. And I think Caitlin and her staff did a really terrific job. I agree with Bob in that it's a very conservative and needed to be situation. Back to the mixed waste thing, and just because we're talking about it, when we get back together as an ad hoc committee, the solid waste committee, I'd really like us to take the approach that we go back to the basics with this stuff. I would like some discussion on what a dirty MRF is versus a clean MRF. Like Director Perry, I've been reading 1383, and it's a lot of the stuff that we're being told. I'm not finding that in the document. I don't see some of the things that we're being told. And I want to have a robust discussion about what our responsibility is and what Cal Recycle calls the vendor responsibilities. I mean, I think that relationship is going to have to be vetted out as to who's responsible for whatever we're going to be doing. So when we get back to the committee, rather than just start talking about things, I'd like us to get back to the basics about what's going on with organics. I mean, our ratepayers expect us to pick this stuff up and get rid of it. And if the vendor isn't willing to work with us or wants us to absorb the cost, I think we need to have a discussion about that. So, just my thoughts on that.
Any other questions for staff? I think we've kind of wandered off the issue, but they're all good questions.
I'll move to receive and file.
Second. Vote on that?
No, we just received and file.
Okay. Consider item number 2 in the general manager report. Consider giving the general manager authority to auction 3 portable bypass pump units. Do any of the directors have questions on this item?
I had one. If we're getting rid of 3, we don't need those anymore for any situations that might come up?
We're getting 2 brand new bypass pumps, so we'll be fine with the rest of them. Yeah, so.
Okay.
That's the new ones of Pioneer pumps.
Correct.
They look better. I like the green color.
Mr. President,
Yes.
just a question, Scott. So you're gonna send them to auction. Can you just briefly fill me in on that process? And we're giving you authority to sell these essentially at auction. Can you just bring me up to speed on that?
Sure. So we'll hire an auctioneer. They will pick up the equipment and they'll take it to an auction. And whatever the high bid is, they'll pay us plus I think minus 10% of their commission. Most likely these bypass pumps will be sold somewhere outside of the state because they don't comply with the AQ&D regulations anymore. So most likely they'll go to Arizona or Nevada, something like that, where they might be needed. So, but they are over 10 years old. So like as I mentioned, I think if we get $15,000, we'll be good.
What's the average lifespan of these? Forget about the AQMD requirements, but
It could be 10 to 15 years. So it's the appropriate time.
so they're at their end of
Yeah.
shelf life.
Yeah.
Okay. And okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Next item is receive and file.
I'm sorry.
We need to.
Yeah, this one is
I'm going to move to give the general manager the authority to auction the 3 portable bypass pumps units, 1007, 1008, and 1010.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Okay, receive and file the capital improvements project status report. Mark?
Yes, President Newton, anticipated that you've all read the agenda report, and for the sake of brevity, I guess I'm willing to, 1, answer your questions, or 2, I'm prepared to provide you a brief overview of the highlights, or 3, allow you to take any action.
What is the board's prerogative?
I have no question.
I have no
I think
questions.
we've all read it.
Okay.
I like the way you stated that. You assume that all of us are. Did you use the word assume?
Yeah.
Of course we did, Mark. Come on.
I just have one question about the President's Pump Station.
Yes, sir.
How's that going?
It's going very well. We're met late last week to firm up some last minute details about starting up the new station. And I believe on the 6th of October, we'll be pushing a button and starting the new station. At that point, we'll probably run a day, 24 hours. And if we don't have any hiccups with the new station, we're gonna, push the off button on the old station and start demoing the pumps, any piping, anything, the electrical, all that. So depending on how the startup goes, the old station won't be functional much past, I'm going to say 7th or 8th of October. If it's different than that, I can come back and give you an update in our next meeting.
Yeah, because that's in my area, I just want to make sure, that's where we grew up. right
So
there.
you were able to get whatever that part was that was stuck out on the supply boat or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the Port of Los Angeles, but they broke free and the contractor started getting all of his parts. And Edison was able to install the generator, so it's all coming back together, while we're terribly behind schedule. Now that we're restarted, I think we're gonna be done no later than the end of October, maybe the first week in November.
You know, I tend to judge successful projects by community complaints. And, you know, we did a lot of work PR-wise with the neighbors, and staff did a great job of letting those folks know what we were doing. Scott, you haven't come back with any complaints, or no one has said anything, so I'm sure there were some minor interruptions, and maybe you guys got some stuff, but from what I've heard,
Yeah, we've had minor amounts of complaints at the beginning of the job. The local community wasn't exactly happy that we've closed the park entrance, but we did it for their own safety because we had large equipment there. We do need to do, I'm gonna say another day or two closure when we actually pave the easement area. So that'll be one closure that we have to perform yet, but after that, I think we're basically done interrupting the public. And then the next door neighbor has talked to me 3 or 4 times about odors. I guess for some reason he was either told or misunderstood that the new station was functional, so he wanted to talk to me about why the new station smelled so much worse than the old station. I'm going back and forth with him and keeping him apprised, and I probably meet with him every other week.
his wedding was successful, and all that went through. Okay.
Yeah, wedding was successful, but we managed to chase him indoors for one of his family barbecues, I think over Labor Day.
Mark, in the rehabilitation of the old pump station, you'll pull the equipment out. Do we have any coatings or did it end up being deemed structurally sound and does not need any linings or coatings?
Not exactly. The work on the old station to convert it from a pump station to an emergency overflow will include a we're gonna remove the opening, any mechanical lids, valve openings, things like that. Anything that's in that top, we're gonna remove all of that. We have to pour a new concrete top slab, tie it into the walls, and then SanCon will be coming in and spraying the coating on the interior of that just to prevent any sewer gases from eroding the concrete any further.
Okay. Any other questions for Mark? Thanks, Mark. In your report, it said we had finished the force mains at Iowa pump station.
Yes.
I've looked down that street. It didn't look like there were any saw cuts in the street.
There's about 400 feet. In fact, the Mesa Water was doing some work installing some miscellaneous pipelines here and there, and they asked for dig alert marking, and I went and marked our trench just to make sure it was, quote, marked for Mesa Water, but right there by is it a middle school? I can't remember the name of the middle school now.
T. Winkle.
Yes, T. Winkle.
First mayor of Costa Mesa.
But yeah, it goes from basically our pump station, which is at their recess area, and it goes up about 400 feet to the manhole that's just, I'm gonna say, north of Gisler.
Yeah, I'm just looking in the wrong place. I was looking down Iowa.
Well, the manhole is north is on Iowa, just north of the street there. And if you drive down, you'll see the scar. But I will say the city is coming in probably middle of October, and they're gonna scarf off a couple inches and repave the entire Iowa street.
Really?
That's good.
Any other questions for Mr. Esker?
Just a point of clarification, T. Winkle, before he was first mayor of Costa Mesa, he was first board president of CMSD.
That's right.
So
That's in our,
Are we in the late 40s?
Oh, good old Charlie.
The district was formed in 47, I think. 44, so
Before most of us, well, at least before,
everyone on the
Director.
board but me.
I don't know about Director Perry.
Well,
I just look really good for my age.
And I wasn't reading the LA Times at the time, so I probably couldn't read. I'm not sure I still can. Okay, and then the next item on the budget is to accept the improvements as completed, file notice of completion, exonerate labor, materials bond, and exonerate the faithful performance bond. Do any of the directors have any questions on that? And that's on the Iowa force main improvements.
I'll move for approval.
Wait, I have one question, Mr. President. Or comment, I guess. I'd love to see things come in or at below budget, so that's fantastic. Thank you very much. What was the primary reason? Just because you guys are awesome, or?
No, I think that when this was bid, the contractors hadn't quite started getting a bunch of work, and so I think they were a little bit hungry, and I think we just got some really good bid prices.
Good timing. So we'll use that for nowadays where bids are a little bit tougher. So great job. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it also started before the materials became harder to get. So, do we have
I made a motion to
and a
approve.
second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. It says no it says no treasurer's report.
Mark's here.
I can't see Mark Davis, but
He's up there on the screen.
He's hiding. There he is.
Mark, you have no report?
Correct. Nothing this evening, Mr. President.
And so we're going to attorney's reports and consider adopting resolution number 2021-946, authorizing remote meetings. And Alan, is that yours?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. AB 361 is now operative, and it extends the authority to conduct remote meetings. That will expire on the 30th of September. This extends it, provided, one, there's a state of emergency, and it has been declared and remains in effect, and two, a state or local agency has imposed or recommended social distancing. The state of emergency is in effect, the governor has declared that. So if you desire to continue with remote meetings or the hybrid version, you should adopt the resolution before you, which will be making a finding that remote meetings or a hybrid version is recommended for social distancing purposes. Thank you. I'm available for any questions.
Well, the last SARFA meeting, it's going to be remote until like past December. So I'm not sure what you have thought, Scott, and what you'd like to do.
And Mr. President, we have to do this resolution every 30 days. We have to continue making the findings. You cannot just adopt this and have it be for 4 months. It requires every 30 days you reevaluate whether this is necessary.
Scott, back, they do that, we have the meetings in Orange County Water District, so they're extending their time till past, like December. So
Same with BizDoc, but I think part of what's going on with the OCWD and MODOC is they're doing some remodeling, or they're doing something to the rooms and the boardrooms. So same with BizDoc, it's being extended until the end of the year. But like Alan said, I know we're going to have to do this every 30 days. And I, from a public convenience standpoint, I think there's still a lot of folks wary and not wanting to participate live. So I'm in support of adopting the resolution, and I'll make that motion.
I think meetings that said that several of the meetings that were mentioned were meeting quarterly. So we do it we meet every 30 days. And several of the meetings that were mentioned meet quarterly, so That's why they have to come back in December to do it again.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Just as a follow-up to Vice President Schaefer, I think the way you all have set it up as a hybrid, I think it's phenomenal. Just for members of the public, we're not talking about we're not going to be here and this place is going to be. It's like, no, you can hybrid, you can zoom in, that's what the governor's order says. And I, for one, am supportive of it, especially our, I think we talked about our study sessions where people are at work and they could zoom in from work or whatever they may be doing. Again, just to me, it's a little bit more potential for public participation. And then, of course, if one of us is traveling or whatever the case may be, we could zoom in and still participate. So I would be supportive of Vice President's motion, and I'll second it.
I have a question. It's back to my question, Scott. Have you talked with the staff about this and how they want to handle it?
Yes, yeah, we've had this discussion, that's why, because it's a staff discussion, we have a hybrid approach. It was a staff great idea, and so, yeah, no, it's, as you know, I have some of my staff members, they're zooming in from their office or from home, so, you know, again, it's for their protection, so we limit the amount of staff here, and they still participate in the meetings, it's all good.
So we have to approve this every month? Or have it on the agenda?
Yeah, unfortunately.
That's correct.
And we've had a motion and a second, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Now we go on to local meetings.
Do we have to approve that resolution, or is that what we just?
That's what I just-
Okay.
I didn't name the resolution, Madam Clerk, is that okay? You want me to restate the motion?
Please.
Yeah, thank you. To restate the motion then is to approve resolution 2021-946 regarding
And make the findings contained therein.
and the findings contained therein.
Thank you.
Sounds like my wedding vows, I think. That was a long time ago, I can't remember. The seconder agree with?
Yeah, absolutely. It's still
Okay,
seconded.
all in favor of the correctly stated motion?
Aye.
Aye,
Unanimous.
including your vows.
Put that in the resolution.
There'll just be a couple blanks there.
Still is.
We go on to local meetings. I attended the Orange County 10 district meetings, and you can go online and see the agenda. Their meetings are usually pretty extensive, and they usually center around construction projects, and they have a very long consent calendar. Got their agendas and the minutes, and one thing I do get that by attending those meetings is notes from the general manager. And I neglected to bring those, but I can make them available, and probably should include them maybe with my report. But because I'm not paid for that, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I'm paid by the Orange County 10 district rather than Costa Mesa Sanitary District. Director Perry?
Okay, I attended the SARFA meeting. I'll present the whole package I have for all meetings I attended, but a couple highlights. Stacey Berry has resigned as the mayor pro tem at Cypress. And I don't know why, but
She's moving.
oh, she's moving? Yeah. Okay. And then they elected a new vice chair, Patrick Harper. Then Jim O'Connell from Washington, D.C. was talking about the appropriations from Congress is on a standstill. Probably will not be until December, he said. The Corps of Engineers still have funds to work at the Santa Ana Mainstream and the Westminster Garden Grove projects. They have that money already, so they're going to continue what they're doing. And I'm sure they're going to get approved, he said, for additional funds. And Congress is still trying to figure out the $1 billion infrastructure bill, like you guys know. And Michelle Steele is on board to help move the appropriations to the Westminster Garden Grove Channel and the Prado Dam projects. The county has to come up with their share of funding to pay for a share of the cost of improvements. And The project, once it's completed with the Westminster Garden Grove Channel, will be go from a 20-year flood protection plan to a 100-year flood protection plan, which is good. Then Prather Dam still has 51 acquisitions to make, and most of them will be eminent domain procedures. The B and S Railroad Bridge will be completed by the end of this month. And Herb Nakasami said the next meeting will be in November, and he will be setting up a meeting with Michelle Steele and Congressman Correa to get their support for the funding projects. So that's that. So that was pretty good meeting.
I think I was in Monterey, or,
No, this was just on Thursday.
well, yeah, I was up north.
But yeah, you're doing something, yeah.
Mike, or Secretary Schaefer, let's see, which one are you, Mike? Oh, it's Secretary Schaefer, and you're Vice President Schaefer. So
Yes, sir.
down to number 5.
That was when I walked in. Reorg.
One standing here, but you're forgetting the read vowels.
You can't remember.
You may be asked.
I have nothing to report on SDRMA. We did have a special meeting, but nothing really to report on this special meeting. I can tell you real quick on Instock. I do attend the executive committee meetings, and there was nothing really at the last meeting that needs our attention. It was mostly discussion about the quarterly meeting, and we seem to spend a lot of time at Instock talking about what we're going to talk about at the next quarterly meeting. And it seems to be the topic lately is what to do about the next quarterly meeting. So once that's ascertained, I'm sure
Those secretaries, but those meetings are remote also.
yeah, because they're at OCWD, same thing. OCWD doesn't want anybody in that building, so everything's remote. That's not a bad thing. Some other meetings. I don't normally get to report on OCOG because it's usually a couple of days after our board meeting, but we were supposed to meet last Thursday with OCOG, but apparently the League of Cities was meeting, so everybody was gone, all the city council type people. So we had our meeting today, and we have a closed session item that we did, and then the other open session, we talked primarily about reports from AQMD and some changes at AQMD, and nothing really substantive. I mean, like I said earlier, at OCOG, there's a lot of people talking about their own particular interests, but I understand, because of the districts are all city-driven, a lot of talking heads, and nothing really substantive to talk to you guys about this evening.
Well, I attended Waco and remotely, and basically they have a chart, many charts related to water, and in particular they had one showing the Orange County Sand District influent flow because that's what they use to treat GWRS, and the Orange County Sand District is down to nearly 180 MPD. When I was there and Mark was there, it was over 260 MPD. And I'm sure with this drought, more behaviors will be changed and it'll continue to go down. So it's getting more tenuous to be able to provide water to the groundwater replenishment project. They are finishing up the second phase of the GWRS project, and it'll get up to 130 MPD. It'll be nipping to get the water treatment for them. Well, one of the longer presentations dealt with stakeholder collaboration, and he gave a huge example of bringing in the activists and the policymakers and the farmers and whatnot, and because they were able to collaborate, they did achieve some good outcomes. So when we have need for policy making that is offensive to some of the stakeholders. The idea is to bring them in and make them part of the process, and they're out there. I and several of the board members attended the city council meeting where we were given mentioned for our participation in the various homeless shelters. We gave money to both shelters to help support their sanitary issues. That's all I have to report. Does any other board members have any meetings they need to report on?
We were disappointed you couldn't give your speech.
I was too. John Stevens wasn't. He came up to me and said, you know, if everybody gets to talk for 5 minutes, we'll be here to midnight.
They were almost there.
Because there were a substantial number of groups that, I think 5 or 6, 7, that gave accommodations. If no other board members have meetings that they need to report on, let's go to old business. Does anyone have any old business they need to discuss? Any new business items and any oral communications and director's comments?
I do, Mr. President. I was contacted, Scott, by a ratepayer. Actually, yeah, I guess he'd be a ratepayer.
Are you speaking into the mic?
Yes, I'm speaking into, I haven't dropped the mic yet. We do a really good job with our Facebook situation of putting out things about large item collection and all the things that we do. We have a really good presence, and I like to share all those, and I know Director Perry does as well. So this ratepayer, who happens to be a friend of mine, saw the one on large item pickup that we did recently. Unfortunately, he lives in a condominium at the end of Vanguard Way, right behind Vanguard University. And he says, hey, how do we get this done in our complex? And I said, well, he says, we're with Waste Management, and we'd like to have a large item pickup in our complex. And I explained to him that, you know, that's part of that vendor would have to come through the city process, and the city would have to. He says, well, why can't, and I see Mike Carey is still with us, so he says, why can't Waste Management talk to CR&R and have a large item pickup in our complex? And I said, I don't have an answer for you. And Mike, I'm not asking you to do anything about that other than be aware. It's too bad we can't get the city to do something about that. And maybe they are, Scott. I see you grabbing the mic, maybe something's going on. But what I'm afraid of is that these folks that don't have the ability to have a large item pickup, and I have one other comment about large item pickup after I'm done with this, if you don't mind. They're going to take their large items and give them to one of their buddies somewhere else in the city who's got CR&R survey. You know what I mean? So as we massage and work towards some resolution with 1383, hopefully the city will impart on their franchisees, they need to do some large item pickups too. I don't know.
Yes, according to their contract, these franchisees are supposed to provide, I believe, 2 large item collections at multifamily units like condos. The problem is, I don't believe the property owner or the property manager is letting their tenants aware of these programs, and I don't believe the city has the resources to hold these condos or apartment complexes their feet to the fire. There's just so many of them, they don't know.
Really?
Yeah, I believe that's the case, but from my understanding, they are supposed to have large item collections available at these complexes.
So essentially, I should say to Rich, you need to put some pressure on your homeowners association
Put pressure on
or their property
tell them to look at their franchise agreement. The franchise agreement should say they are allowed to have large item collections, and then
Okay,
they need to have contact waste management.
okay. And then my second comment about the large item is, as we had last week with former city manager Roeder and the communication process, Mike, I guess I'd throw this at you, but we have people that aren't getting calls back or calls are being missed. And I understand the process is if you need a large item, you call CR&R, large item pickup, you call CR&R and the CR&R calls back. And
If you use Go Outreach, I believe.
that's only through government
Yeah,
outreach.
because I've made large item collection myself, and I just call on the phone and it's taken care of.
I know, that's what I've done in the past.
But if they use the app, then CNR will call them back and confirm that they, and also what items to place them out there.
Okay.
That's what, we're trying to get that changed.
It doesn't
make a lot
seem
of
to be
sense
working.
to us, because that's what was happening with Mr. Roder, they kept on missing him, he wasn't there when they tried
Is
calling
that
him.
what it is? Okay.
Yeah, and so we're trying to get that revised.
Okay. That's all, Mike. I'm not asking you to do anything other than be aware. And you're pretty good about taking those notes, so I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, we're on it.
That's the best thing you could say. I appreciate it. All right, that's it, Mr. President.
Well, Mike, I have one question. Would you be in a position to tell us what the high-capacity organic MRF contamination concerns are? Or, what CRNR needs to do to be in compliance with the state criteria, even though, I expect they have some idea what those criteria are. At our study session or sometime in the future?
Sure, we can provide that information at the study session or at the ad hoc committee. There is some ambiguity in the way that's currently written.
No doubt.
That was pretty simply stated.
Would you like more detail than that?
No,
No, thank you. I'm sorry for being me.
Thank you, President.
Okay, any other oral communications or director's comments?
Mr. President? Just one. Scott, if possible, and I remember the public had a few questions, instead of waiting until the next ad hoc meeting, do you think you could maybe email some of the easy answers maybe? And I just came down here, it's like, why wait for another meeting? That'd be great. Thank you.
Or Scott, can you answer any of the questions tonight?
I'll just email.
Okay. I have one other comment. When I get on the Costa Mesa, or when I try to get on the Costa Mesa Sanitary District website, there's a lot of different alternatives that say Costa Mesa Sanitary District website. So, I have to do some workarounds to finally figure it out. And I'm sure most of the public are more adept at social media than I am, but, I'll go over maybe Gina, you and I can sit down and I can show you, what my concerns are, and my problem is, I could do it, but I would think the general public might have more trouble than me, because I do it at least once a month or more.
I have a question.
Save a half a day.
On that same topic, is the old app the same one, do you just have one app? So it still gets on? Okay.
I don't believe we have a closed session tonight.
No.
So it's time for this meeting to be adjourned. Thank you very much for your participation.
Okay, so Bob is.
Hey,
Aye.
Bob, we want to put on our agenda, or just, mine's, we want to put Bob first. I mean, introduction.
I'll do the introductions, and then I'll bring Bob up.
Good job.
That's-
And I told Joan that she's.
Yay, under an hour.
It's good. No other agenda.
Dinner time.
We'll let them-
Are you on Texas time still?
Oh my God, I try to stay awake 2 hours ahead. Alright.
I can't remember, where's the time? You have to come into Texas?
I think so. In Arizona, so.
Good stuff.